Hey guys, Jason from TrilliumWest here. Part one of my Q4 TW report summary here. We're going to go over the basic numbers and some of the most important need to knows when it comes to Cambridge, Ontario in Q4 2020. Again, how did I get here? We went to Market Data and Analysis under the Knowledge tab at TrilliumWest.com. Download the quarterly report, easy peasy. You end up pulling up the PDF here, and this is going to be one of my first times through it, and we're going to give it a little skim, and I'm excited to see what the heck happened in Cambridge in Q4 of last year. Now, what you'll see on each report page, let me give us one of these. What I'm going to do is you'll find that at the top of each of the summary pages is going to be a bit of a blurb, a real talk, what the heck happened in this area. So give those a read through, and one of the things that blew me away when I first skimmed this up was with a median detached sale price that increased 16.6% in 2020, or in other words, the median Cambridge home appreciated at almost $100K in just 1 year. That's crazy money. That's crazy money in 1 year. There has been so much demand in the Waterloo region as a whole, but Cambridge is the best one to start with when we're looking at this. Cambridge has always had that sort of in the ranking of Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge townships. Cambridge has always been a little bit behind Kitchener and Waterloo in terms of those sale prices. And what we're seeing now is Cambridge is only 3% off the historically much pricier Kitchener and Waterloo. Really interesting stuff. That proximity to the 401 has gone a long way. That next one down the road from Milton, from Guelph, along the 401 there, that it's had a real impact on what's been going on in Cambridge. And there's a lot of variance in the different neighborhoods as well. So when we're looking over here, what I'll let you guys do is dive into which one is relevant to you. Hespeler, Preston, North Galt, East Galt. Take a look, see which one's most relevant to you. But I'm going to go over some of these more important points. So one of the most notable things, obviously, that was discussed is that with a median detached sale price of $626 in Cambridge, we're up 16% over what were we at last year? $537. We're almost $100,000 up. It is wild. This new listing ratio is one of the most important stats when you're ever trying to guess what is going to be happening in the future. Nobody has a crystal ball when it comes to real estate, but this new listing ratio is an extremely important stat. And this is a new listing compared to what has sold. So the listing to sold ratio. Usually, as we can see here, between 0.4 and 0.6 is what we would consider a balanced market. But for simplicity's sake, let's say it's 0.5. That means that for every property that hits the market, half of a property sells. Or for every 2 properties that hit the market, 1 property sells. Keeps it pretty balanced. In those kind of markets, you see a little bit more negotiation. You don't see buyers tripping over each other because there's enough supply that they have options, but there's enough sort of heat. They don't have so many options that it's a strong buyer's market, which is what we would see if this was under 0.4. Now, what we're seeing in Cambridge here is a 1.07. Now, in one of my earlier videos, I touched on the importance of this stat. And the thing that I want to drive home here is that for every property that hit the market last quarter, more than one, a little bit more, but more than one property was purchased. So that means that some of those properties that have been sitting on the market for a little while, need a lot of work, maybe they're carrying bad leases right now, those are being eaten up as well, which is really digging into the supply, which is greatly going to impact Q1 2021. Let's go a little bit deeper here. Now, a 24% increase in East Galt median sale price. That's a big jump in East Galt. And that's a number that we are going to be keeping an eye on. Like East Galt has always tended to be a little bit on the cheaper side, but seeing these sort of figures really makes you think, are we now going to get to a point where maybe East Galt's going to slow down a little bit in the first half of next year because of that significant jump this past quarter? But realistically, East Galt was kind of playing a bit more of that catch-up game anyways. Now, one of the interesting stats here that I wanted to touch on is a spike in new inventory in Hespeler. That is where we're seeing a lot more newer build projects going up there. We're seeing a lot of people get out of some parts of Hespeler and in upgrade into larger homes or bigger areas. And we saw a big push there in new inventory. I also would not be surprised at all if some people started to see the crazy demand that hit right when COVID started, even this is before Q4. And they said, look, I'm just going to cash out now. We've got a lot of people coming from out of town who want to get into this market. Take it. I'm going to go buy somewhere else because I know my property value has jumped significantly. So a very steep jump in Hespler inventory. Again, that's probably not going to last very long. And as it's seen right here, it's still not a big enough jump. Supply is really going to be the name of the game for Q1 this year. We also saw, and obviously some of these things really go hand in hand, they make sense. A spike in new inventory, that also makes sense that there's a growth in sales volume in Hespler. That means that because there's more property and more inventory hitting the market, there is also more sales taking place because of that. Obviously, people are hitting the market, they're selling. That's just the way 2021 has gone. One of the big things that I also wanted to note here is that in North Galt, we're seeing a pretty steep decrease in new inventory. So this is a big part of what has helped push up a giant spike in the median sales price. And if you jump into the North Galt stats, you'll see how clear that is. But as we see supply go down and a decrease in new inventory like that, there's no doubt that people who want to get into that area are going to push hard to get there. So this is a quick little snapshot. And the way I like to look at these initial summary pages of every city, I definitely encourage you to jump into it, take a look at the neighborhood that's relevant for you. And after this, I'm going to move on. I'm going to take a look at Guelph. I'm going to take a look at Kitchener-Waterloo, and I'm going to do a quick summary of the townships as well as part of this 4-part series. Thanks so much for tuning in, and good luck out there.